Welcome to the Crown Valley Community Pool in Laguna Niguel, California. I'm Kurt Wilson, this is Kevin McMahon, and we're here with divers from all over Southern California to introduce you to the principles of judging one of the world's most beautiful sports.
In competitive diving, a full panel of judges consists of either 5 or 7 judges per contest.
The skills being judged include the approach, the takeoff, the flight, which is the elevation and the execution, and then the entry into the water.
The flight can include various combinations of spinning and twisting motions. The more complicated the dive, the higher the degree of difficulty of that particular dive.
But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. This is supposed to be an introduction to judging, so before we get into degrees of difficulty and the principles of judging, let's start with the basics.
Okay, gotcha. Basics in springboard diving. There are 5 different groups of dives: forward, back, reverse, inward, and twisting. Dives can be performed in various positions. Tuck, with the diver bent at both knees and waist during flight in as compact of a position as possible.
Pike, with the diver bending only at the waist while maintaining straight legs.
Straight. And free, which is used in twisting dives and utilizes a combination of at least 2 different positions.
That's enough of an introduction, I think. Let's let the divers take it from here. With a front dive in tuck, pike, and straight.
The front dive has a forward approach with a half rotation that results in a head-first entry into the water.
Now a back dive. In tuck, pike, and straight.
Next we'll look at reverse dive.
Like front dives, reverse dives start with a forward approach, but then rotate back towards the board.
Tuck, pike, and straight. The fourth group is inward. Inward dives start with the diver standing on the end of the board, just like a back dive, but rotating towards the board.
Here are the inward dives. In tuck, pike, and straight.
And to finish off our basic dives, let's check out some twisting dives.
Twisters can rotate horizontally in any direction, forward or backward, but also must rotate on the vertical axis. So you'll be seeing not only head over heels, but a rollover effect as well.
Let's check out a couple of basic twisting dives. Back somersault with a half twist. Forward somersault with a full twist.
Now let's look at some commonly performed optional dives. As you watch the demonstrations, remember to look at all of the pieces of the dive. The approach, the takeoff, the flight, and the entry. We'll run through the same 5 dive groups.
Forward somersault tuck. Forward 1.5 somersault tuck. Forward 1.5 somersault pike. Forward double tuck.
Back somersault tuck. Back somersault straight. Back 1 1/2 somersault tuck.
Reverse somersault tuck. Reverse 1 1/2 somersault tuck. Reverse 1 1/2 somersault pike.
Inward somersault tuck. Inward 1 1/2 somersault tuck. Inward 1 1/2 somersault pike.
Forward somersault with 2 twists, free position. Back somersault with 1 1/2 twists, free.
Forward 1 1/2 somersaults, 1 twist free.
Congratulations! You've now completed Phase 1 of United States Diving's How to Judge Clinic. You can now identify the groups of dives and have a good idea of what many of the dives commonly done in competition should look like.
This segment of the video will give you the principles that you as a judge need to apply in awarding a score to a particular dive. We'll go over some ground rules and let the diver show you some dives to practice scoring. We'll critique the dives and tell you what scores we think are appropriate and why.
The angle with which you see a dive will affect your perception and your score. Judges are placed on the side of the pool near the end of the diving board where the divers will be performing the dives.
Worry less about whether your score matches ours and focus more on seeing what we're seeing and coming up with a score that falls within a point in either direction of our suggested scores.
As a judge, your responsibility is to judge the dives relative to the contest they're in. Try to be consistent and allow for your score to accurately express the differences in the skill you see in each dive performed.
The other important duty is to disregard the degree of difficulty when scoring a dive. Apply the same standards to a front double somersault as you would to a forward dive tuck.
The degree of difficulty component will fairly compensate a diver that successfully completes a more difficult dive when the degree of difficulty, or DD as it is commonly referred to, is factored in with the judge's awards for the total score of that particular dive.
How that works is that in a contest with 5 judges present, the highest and lowest scores are then eliminated. The remaining 3 scores are then added together and multiplied by the degree of difficulty to get the total awards earned on that particular dive.
In a diving contest, each diver is required to do the same number of dives. The total award for each diver's dive is added together on that diver's score sheet to come up with a running total and eventually the final placement of that diver in a specific contest.
If there are 7 judges present, the highest and lowest scores are still eliminated. The remaining 5 scores are added together and multiplied by the degree of difficulty of that particular dive, and then that total is multiplied by 0.6 to come up with the total award for that particular dive.
All competitive diving is scored on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being an incomplete or failed dive and 10 a dive performed perfectly.
Theoretically, every dive is initially worth a 10, and judges deduct points for mistakes and shortcomings in the execution of the dive.
United States Diving's technical rules explain judging standards in detail, and you should review that rulebook.
As a beginning judge, you might find it helpful to start by understanding what comprises a satisfactory dive.
Satisfactory, with a judge's award of 5 to 6, is a dive that is balanced, controlled, and complete before contacting the water with a mostly vertical entry 2.5 to 4 feet from the end of the diving board.
Complete means a diver has performed all the required rotations and or twists before entering the water.
Good to excellent dives should receive scores above 6. These are dives that are better than satisfactory by demonstrating a strong takeoff, a high jump relative to the diver's height, good body alignment, and or a clean entry into the water. The better the dive is performed, the higher your score should be.
Deficient dives are dives that fall short of the satisfactory definition. Faults that usually bring your score down to a 4.5 or below include distance, too close or too far from the end of the diving board. On a sliding scale, the greater the deviation from the ideal distance, the lower the score.
A break in position. Dives that bend briefly where they shouldn't. Piking out when a diver emerges from a tuck by first straightening the legs and then straightening at the waist does not constitute a break in position.
A split tuck. Knees should be no further than the shoulder width apart.
Arms above the head on a feet first entry, except jumps. Arms down on a head first entry, or extended out to the side.
Crow hop, where the feet leave and then regain contact with the board on a back takeoff.
And twists, when they are too much, too little, or present in dives that aren't supposed to twist.
Unsatisfactory, with awards of 2 or below, include dives that lack a strong takeoff, such as dives that stop at the end of the board and fall in, or back dives without any press or lift from the board.
Grossly under-rotated or over-rotated twists, as indicated by the judges having a clear view of the front or the back of the diver during the dive or at the entry point into the water.
Lack of a vertical entry. Dives that fall short or past the intended stopping point, or are still in a tuck or pike position at the point of contact with the water.
Or when a diver hits the board.
Failed dives receive a 0. If the referee doesn't make this call, you as a judge may still score the dive a 0 if you feel that it was failed.